Office Battles with Greg and Eric. We are in weird musical category. Tonight we have two 70s films going head to head. Phantom of the Paradise and the movie Tommy. So pick your favorite. Let's go. That's the Box Office Battles.
Hi, I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle.
Hi, I'm Greg and I'm a nerd.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
I have never seen anything like this.
The worst part has been watching the actual watching of the movie.
Some of these were pretty terrible.
And we are back again for another episode of Box Office Battles with Greg and Eric. Hello, Eric.
Hi, Greg. Happy Dolly Parton Day.
Oh, it's a sad day.
It's a national treasure. It's one of those people that you just feel like was always going to be around forever. And there's a few of those. And I've still yet to cry at a celebrity death, this one included. But there are just those people that you just feel like I've known her my entire life and I'll know her the rest of my life. And so it's a very odd thing when those I feel the same way about like Willie Nelson, or being from Texas. Like when George Strait dies, that'll be a big deal because my parents listened to George Strait. He's just kind of an icon down here. So very sad day. She was a real joy, and her charitable work and, you know, anything that could be said about the lady's been said. I've seen it on social media today, and just the impact that she had on people. Saw a post from Eminem, who was
right.
She wrote him a letter and was like, you know, I saw your performance. I can't tell you how impressed I was. She admitted, you know, I don't know much about rap music, but I can tell that what you're doing is, you know, really at the highest level of doing it. I mean, it was so effusive, and, you know, we should all be so lucky to spend our lives. And at the end of it, people say, you know, that person made me feel really good. And what else is there to life than doing that for people, you know?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, because she, you know, I said to my wife, I said, I've seen celebrity deaths before on social media. You know, this is the age. You know, everybody posts when somebody dies. Eddie Van Halen dies, or anybody recently. And I've never seen everybody, every celebrity, every friend I know post rest in peace Dolly, or some sort of memory of Dolly Parton. It's truly an iconic life. I mean, it's, as far as country music goes, it's that Michael Jackson figure, that stratospheric figure. And I personally go back to when I was a kid, and my mom used to play Dolly Parton all the time. And the first song I ever heard by her was the album cover. She had this really big hair that went straight up, and it was called Mule Skinner Blues. And and she's, you know, yodels, and then, and you hear a little whip in the background. And I was fascinated by that song. And still, you know, people love Jolene and I Will Always Love You, but Mule Skinner Blues, you put that on by Dolly Parton, and I am in heaven. It is. Yeah, it is great. And I've got a bunch of her stuff on vinyl. There's so many. Coat of Many Colors, Love Is Like a Butterfly, In My Tennessee Mountain Home. You know, these were just, man, they were, at their time, she set the standard. And as a songwriter as well, she set the standard. So you can't say enough about Dolly. Rest in peace, Dolly Parton.
Was it, someone asked her what it was like being a dumb blonde, and she said, sweetie, I'm not dumb or a blonde.
Great stuff. Yeah. And she lost her husband last year. So, you know, that's, you see that a lot too.
Yes.
Where one partner goes, and then it's just, especially when you're together a very, very long time, you know, it just, the other partner tends to follow not too long after. So it just is what it is.
That's the way you want it, you know? Like, I don't want you staying alive and being happy. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm dead. So let's get this show on the fucking road.
So I've not told anybody in the audience this, but of course, that my wife has a few health issues going on right now, and we got a scare recently, and it dawned on me that I could possibly have to live my life without her. It's not likely, but there was that thought, and man,
Yeah.
it puts you through the ringer when you start having those thoughts, and it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So I can see why it happens. So yeah. Anyway, well, on a sadder note, there was somebody's birthday this weekend.
Yes, my last year in. Oh yeah, thank you. Happy birthday to me. Look how young we were there. Look how
It was only like 5 years ago.
look how dark my beard was.
Mine too.
My God. Yes, it's my 49th birthday. So the last one in the 40s.
Mm.
Then I guess it's all you can tell me because you're significant.
The death
It's
slowly creeps in.
how it feels from this point forward. But yeah, my best friend Josh came over on Saturday, and we sat on my patio and played guitar. Just played guitar, and it was really.
Nice.
Thank you, Claude de Pussy. 69,
Wishing
420,
Eric
69.
in the chat, wishing Eric a happy birthday. Yeah, that's great. That's a wonderful thing to do. I have a friend like that I get to play guitar with occasionally, and it's that's a very chill thing. So I'm glad you got to spend a good day.
It was really great until my backyard backs up to neighbor's backyard and just opened the doors like, y'all shut the fuck up.
It's my birthday.
Yes.
I don't give a fuck.
You shut up. Same neighbor who lets their dogs out at 4 a.m. and
Of
they start
course.
barking. So anyway.
Of course.
But thank you for the birthday wish.
Yes.
At this, I know that that at this age, just getting to another one is the true miracle in and of itself. You should know that more than anybody at your age.
Yes, at my age. I'm glad to gotten as far as I've gotten. So,
and your present to me was to have me watch a couple of weird 1970s musicals.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the category we're in, is weird musicals. And I don't know what they were doing in the 70s, but it was a lot of drugs. We know that for a fact. But before we get into that, let me welcome everybody to Box Office Battles with Greg and Eric. If you're watching on our live stream on YouTube at Box Office Battle Podcast, welcome. If you're on Twitch at Box Office Battle Pod, how you doing? And if you're on Facebook Live, fuck you. No. Box Office Battles with Greg.
Tell Zuckerberg we said fuck off.
Thanks for checking us out on any of those platforms. But if you just like listening to the podcast, you don't want to actually watch us do it, which I could say sometimes might be preferable.
Couldn't recommend it enough.
You can do so by checking us out on all podcast providers: Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, many, many others. But please, if you do, make sure that you subscribe to our podcast, and also leave a like and recommend us to a friend so that we can keep our numbers up and keep doing this for you. We enjoy doing it. We want to keep doing it for you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight.
We can't encourage you enough to buy 700 Chinese cell phones, set them all to streaming our show, set it overnight, just plug it into a giant like electrical array, and maybe plug it into your neighbor's outlet so that you're not getting charged for the electricity, and just let those things roll over and over and over again. And we're going to trick the algorithm into making people think that we've really got it going on.
That works for me. I'm thinking of hijacking a data center. If one comes into my neighborhood, being able to break in and just wire it in and run our
just
podcast.
Like one little cord coming out of the side of the data center.
And just running the show nonstop.
Amazing.
Anyway, the category is weird musicals, and let's take a look at the bracket. We've only done one battle, and that was Pink Floyd, The Wall versus Xanadu. It was pretty much a slam dunk for The Wall. didn't even really need to debate. And these are the rest of the movies that we got coming up. But tonight we've got the 3 seed, which is a movie with Paul Williams called Phantom of the Paradise, going up against the 6 seed, which is The Who, the legendary rock band of The Who, and their rock opera, Tommy.
May
So
I ask a
yeah.
clarifying question about the bracket seating?
Yes.
So sometimes the seating is based on your own proprietary blend of 17 herbs and spices that is Internet Movie Database rating multiplied times a 1.2x factor of Rotten Tomatoes divided by
Exactly. Yes.
how much you liked the film personally.
No,
And
mine does not come into it.
But so I was looking at that seating, and Tommy being number 6 and Phantom of the Paradise being number 3. Tommy's the much more well-known of these films.
Yes.
Are these ranked in order, in the same order, like that they're considered best, or are they ranked in what's considered the weirdest, or are they ranked in order
As
of
far as their IMDb mostly and Rotten Tomatoes. So as
Okay.
far as what the fans and critics think of them.
Okay.
So like with Phantom of the Paradise, I think it was a 7.3 and Tommy was like a 6.5 or something like that. I'm not 100% on the scores, but yeah.
I kind of know what it's like to be a 7.3, so
Oh, good.
and
Yeah,
you
the
know what it's
ruler.
like to be a 6.5.
Yeah, the ruler out recently.
It's like, this thing got centimeters on it or what?
Yeah, so it is really based on critics and fans and who's voted for it. And the interesting thing about both these films, yeah, they came out within a year of each other. Phantom of the Paradise in 74, Tommy in 75. To me, they're very similar in certain ways, not just being bizarre. They talk about some of the same subject matter in a subtle way, and we're going to get into that. And basically, they talk about the corruption of the music industry and the way that celebrities within the industry are propped up by the executives, that kind of thing. They both have that to say. They both get deep in certain ways, and bizarre and odd, can be off-putting to some people.
Depends on how much you like baked beans, I suppose.
We're definitely going to get into the baked beans because that makes me I literally during that scene. So they do some things that are unconventional, but in the context of that late 60s, early 70s, there were more experimental films being made, so it wasn't that odd then as it would be today. And we were talking a little bit before the show, and I said that these are both very polarizing films for people, because the people that like them really, really love them. But if you don't like these because they're bizarre and they're weird, then they just hate them. I don't know anybody that just goes, it's okay. It's okay.
I think for the average person, and I'll just put myself in that category, and I'll put you somewhere above that in your, righteous cinematic tower. I think that the good part about going into these as part of a bracket and of weird musicals is that the threshold and the bar is already set, that I know what I'm getting into. I'm not going into these completely blind. I'm not walking into a theater for the first time going, I really like The Who. I'm going to go check out their new music video movie, and it not being that, or thinking that you're a Phantom of the Opera fan, Brian De Palma. I love Scarface or whatever. I mean, maybe that came out afterwards.
It did, yeah.
But so at least you have that kind of baseline going into it. So then at the end of the day, you know that you're about to watch something weird, and I did. And I think you have to approach it accordingly. So we'll get into all that. I'm excited to do that.
We're going to start it off with, we always do the lower seed first. So we're going to start off with Tommy. Now, this film was based on the rock opera album of the same name that came out in 1969. A great album. I actually listened to it a billion times over the course of my life. I'm a fan of The Who. I'm a fan of just rock in general of that era. And I think, Keith Moon is one of the best drummers I've ever heard because he's intense and chaotic, but yet somehow can keep a beat.
Yeah,
You know,
drunk,
yeah,
high.
most of the time, yeah. They're a very interesting, band from the 60s and 70s of the British invasion. And they did this record, and Pete Townsend, who crafted most of it, came up with that album. And when it was proposed, they actually did like a stage show. It wasn't really endorsed by The Who, but then they wanted to make it into a movie, and Pete Townsend was very skeptical about the film. And so he worked with the producer Ken Russell, the director, who kind of eased his fears, and they ended up writing the script together with kind of some help from the rest of the band. And of course, Roger Daltrey, the lead singer of the Who, plays the seminal title character.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the Wall in certain aspects. There's no dialogue except for maybe a couple of spoken lines. Everything is sung. It's a true rock opera from beginning to end. And it is what it is.
Yeah. It also had aspects of, for me, the Blues Brothers, because I did know, because I'm a big Eric Clapton fan.
Oh, okay.
Eric Clapton music fan, not
Yep.
Eric Clapton the human piece of shit fan. I have known forever that Eric Clapton played God in The Who's Tommy.
Yeah.
And so I saw him come up, but then there's Jack Nicholson and there's Elton John, and I kept going. And the prostitute,
the Acid Queen.
yeah, Tina Turner.
Tina Turner, yes, exactly.
And so that was neat, kind of seeing who else was gonna pop up. I know that you must, because men your age love some Anne Margaret. So I know that had to be in the plus category for you.
Yeah. We talked about Anne Margaret like a few episodes ago when you said, what's one woman out there that, is still out there that may be old that you would still take a crack at?
Yeah, for me it was Judge Judy.
I didn't, yeah. B. Arthur, if she was still alive, maybe. But no, I didn't hesitate. It was Anne Margaret. I mean, I grew up with the Elvis movies that she was in. Bye Bye Birdie. Always had a thing for redheads. Love my wife. She's a redhead. I told her, I said I couldn't marry Anne Margaret, so I went after you instead. And I think Anne Margaret, I will say this, as far as performances go, the best in the movie. She's phenomenal in my opinion. She
looks like she's the only one that's ever acted before in the movie.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes, she's boy, this is going to be tough because I've not listened to the album Tommy from beginning to end. I obviously, as most people are aware of Pinball Wizard, I know that song. I guess I was a little surprised as the movie started to find it. I mean, first of all, that she's singing a bunch of it.
Yes.
I had imagined the album's not that way.
No.
Like The Who featuring Anne Margaret. I also found it, and I know that it's partly the setting. It's as The Wall was set, at least partly in World War I. This is set partly in World War II.
Yep.
It's very like oompa, penny whistle, kind of. I don't know what I'm. The way that the ending of Penny Lane sounds by the Beatles is the way most of the first half of this movie sounded to me. It was just like this weird, like extremely of its generation before, very British penny whistle type music with Anne Margaret singing it. And I kept going, this can't be the reason that people like The Who's Tommy, album or movie.
Right. But and she's a fine singer.
Yes.
But if you went to see to see Help, for instance, the Beatles Help, and everybody was singing the Beatles songs but the Beatles,
Yeah.
you're probably going to walk out of the theater going, "What the hell was that?"
Now, eventually we shift into Tommy is an adult and Roger Daltrey takes over some of the singing.
Yes.
Which, in his defense, he's not an actor. It shows. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
And so perhaps who better to play? But you notice that nobody from Pink Floyd played the character of Pink. They hired somebody who could do it and do it well.
Right.
And I found myself wishing that maybe that's what they could have done here. I don't know how you feel about his acting chops.
So it's funny you bring this up because I've been talking about lately. I've been forcing my lovely wife Christina to watch the films with me so I can bounce. Because a lot of this is her first time seeing these too. A lot of the movies that we do on this show are not so much mainstream. So I'm getting her reaction to see if it matches up with how I feel. And one of the things that we discussed was, as we watched the movie, my wife loved the music, the songs, as far as the melody and the musical atmosphere of it. She was really surprised that Anne Margaret was the feature. I mean, in it more than anybody else, and sings more than anybody else. That was really surprising to her, but that didn't bother her. But when Roger Daltrey starts singing, and she does love Roger Daltrey's voice, it was like, oh, he's singing finally. But it's an hour and 12 minutes into the movie that he starts singing. And that to me is I said, I think this movie would be more well liked if we heard the Who more prominently earlier on than an hour and 12 minutes. We hear the band, you hear Eric Clapton, like you said, when he plays the preacher, performing with them, and you hear Tina Turner singing, and that's great. But you wanted to see the Who. So it's an interesting choice that they have everybody else sing the songs except the Who until the second half of the film. And so that's a very good observation. The other thing is that you said is that my wife did not mind Roger Daltrey's performance. However, she said that I don't think after he finished this movie, he ever smiled again for at least a year. I mean, seriously, because that's basically all he does for 90 minutes is just smile until he finally starts talking again.
Yes. I mean, I don't even, it's hard to know where to start with some of these because they are so off the wall and oddball, and discussing them like you would discuss, I don't know, just a movie that kind of has a very clearly defined, I mean, I guess the narrative is defined, but I think you know what I mean. Just watching a movie where it's just whatever, a normal ass movie of which neither of these are. So it's hard to approach them in the same way. There's a lot going on in the movie.
Right.
So it feels like there's a lot going on in my head that every time I thought that I was crafting a well-formulated opinion on something, here's something else zany that happens. Or it's a dream sequence, or it's a flashback, or it's a hallucination, or it's a whatever.
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening to where I understand weaving the real story of what happened, that, couple meets, man goes off to war, man is killed in war. Meanwhile, wife has the baby. Meanwhile, she meets someone new. Meanwhile, there's trauma involved. So that's a pretty straightforward story that gets way out of bounds just about the entire way through.
Oh yeah.
And I think that movies that do this really well have the ability to really rein that in more or tie those more to the central point of what's going on. I think Pink Floyd's The Wall did that really well, where nothing to me felt wasted. Nothing felt like it was venturing out too far from the main theme. It ventured, and it ventured in often weird ways, but never so far that I felt like the movie was getting away from them. And I do think that's maybe how I felt about Tommy, at maybe not overall, but at certain points I'm going, can we just get back to the thing we're trying to accomplish here? Is that making sense to you? And if it does or doesn't, do you agree?
Well, so I'll preface it by saying that I've watched Tommy several times since I first saw it, and I think the first time I saw it, and it it was later in life. I didn't see it in 75. I would have been 4 years old. So it was like, I think I was maybe 16, 17. I didn't care for it because it was just too out there for me and I didn't hold my attention. But I've watched it several times since, and this was probably maybe the fourth or fifth time I've watched it. And I really enjoyed it this time for what it was because I knew what to expect and I knew just to sit back and kind of enjoy the music videos. But my wife said the similar thing that you said is like, I explained to her before we got started. I said the narrative's going to be a little bit all over the place. It's going to be a little bit incoherent at times. It's going to be very trippy. And so she prepared herself for that. And after it was over, she said, I didn't mind so much the narrative. The narrative I was able to follow pretty well. It was just that every so often I had to deal with the music video that they
Yeah.
decided to put in the middle of this film and kind of go off in left field. And I'm like, but the thing is watching it again and again, you start seeing how they're really trying to be artistic. They're trying to use different illusions to kind of demonstrate. I showed the crosses up there before, the many crosses and the poppies. There's a scene where Tommy is with the acid queen and she's poking him full of needles and Tommy looks up when he's in the machine with all the heroin going into him and he kind of looks up and he sees there's the machine here on the screen and there's Tina Turner's acid queen. She's a woman that his uncle Frank, his stepdad, takes to try to get him laid for the first time and she physically abuses him with drugs and she's a nightmare to behold. But Tommy, as there's a scene where he's getting this done in his head, he's got like this crown of poppies you can see on the screen here where he's got all the needles have injected into his head. So what they're trying to talk about the trauma that he suffered from his dad because the poppies were what the British used to remember those that had passed in war before. So there's a lot of symbolism in here by these. It's not just because they're drug fueled acid trips. They're really trying to say something, but the problem is if you don't care or want to figure out the references, it gets lost in the noise. And so it doesn't grip you as much as it probably would have, maybe even in 1975, and right coming out of the Vietnam War and everything, with all the massive protests. But yeah, so I think that it is a movie that maybe in its time was appreciated by people who liked that music or just loved to get stoned
Yeah.
and go watch something trippy. This was one of those films I talked about before where we had the midnight movies and people would go see like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Pink Floyd. Well, Tommy was another one that people would get stoned and when I was growing up and go see. It just wasn't one of my favorites, and I think part of it was going back to the fact that they didn't have a lot of the Who actually singing, and I was expecting that, and that to me it took away from the film.
I think that it's fair also to say, and wherever you put the Who in your, pantheon of great either rock bands of all time or even British rock bands of all time, the Beatles, Stones, Pink Floyd, the Who, Led Zeppelin, Cream, though that probably meets most people's, top 6, top 7, top 8 in there. all of them great musicians in their own right, and you could, espouse all of the pros of each of them. But I think it is okay to admit that some people are better at high-minded concept albums, big thinking, really adventurous, really, pushing the edges of what is music versus what is theater versus what is movie versus what is opera. And if of all of those bands we talked about, if Roger Waters is the best at it, doesn't mean everybody, just because they're musically talented, is going to be good at pulling off that same thing. And I think maybe that's what we're dealing with here, is that it's not eh, eh, I mean, not just anybody can do that. Put a cohesive, coherent kind of narrative together where you really want it to be symbolic. You want to tell your story without everything having to be exactly on the nose. And when it's done well, we praise those people as, you know, how neat it was. The use of symbolism was so good. The use of irony, the use of satire, the use of whatever kind of, uh, you know, tools that they've got in their belt to tell that story. But it's also really easy to tell when it's falling short. I think maybe that's what I felt like I was seeing, is just I can appreciate the effort, I can appreciate the adventurous nature. Maybe had I listened to the album, maybe if this wasn't my first watch of it, I might feel differently. But it was just like when my kid comes home and says, "Dad, I look at this move I learned in basketball," and he falls over himself and trips and the ball goes shooting across the street, and I go, "That's good, buddy. Keep working at it." I
Well,
maybe.
I get your point. I do. I understand. And it is, I think it is an acquired taste where, yeah, like you said it correctly, where I listen to the vinyl, and the vinyl comes through almost as good as like a Sergeant Pepper does, with the way the songs are strung together. And Pete Townsend was, like I said, very skeptical about this being a film. And in fact, he even, I don't think he distanced himself from the film these days. He just never cared for it as much as he could have, because he doesn't think they achieved the same gravitas as the album did. And there's reasons for that. I think that it was very ambitious to take an album is that abstract and try to shoot it. There was a few differences. Like you mentioned that the father dies in war, and in the film, Anne Margaret ends up meeting Oliver Reed, who is one of those character actors from those days where he was always the heavy guy, and he's like the prince at this camp that they go to, vacation camp, right after World War II, and she falls for this guy. And in the film, what ends up happening is that as they're getting ready to do it, they're gonna sleep together for the first time. Her husband, who's been missing in action, just shows up and storms in, and Oliver Reed, Uncle Frank, ends up killing him in the bedroom, and then they have to hide the body. And then what they end up doing is telling Tommy that he didn't see anything, he never heard anything, he's not going to say anything. So this imprints onto him that this trauma of seeing what happened, seeing his father murdered, it makes him deaf, dumb, and blind from then on. And then he just becomes, that's who he is at that point. And they have to deal. They spend a lot of the movie after that, even when he's young, and then when he's older, played by Roger Daltrey, dealing with his disability. The whole thing with Eric Clapton, they're taking him to a faith healer to try to heal him. They take him to the Acid Queen to try anything that they can do to get him to snap out of it. In the actual record, it was the dad who burst in, saw the lover with his wife, and killed the lover, and the wife and the husband buried the body, got rid of the body, and told Tommy, "You didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything," and it made more sense because Tommy knows his parents did something bad, but he loves his parents, and so there's still that love there. The decision to make it Frank as the murderer, I think it was done because Oliver Reed was so menacing in that role. And I think that the director convinced Pete Townsend, let's go this way and have it be the lover. And I will say, Oliver Reed, he can't sing
For shit.
he can't sing for shit. It's horrible. He was even in Oliver as Sykes is a big role of his. He was in Gladiator. And he was a known alcoholic. We'll get to that later. And yet he can't sing, so he had to sing his songs when they recorded them in like little bits and pieces because he couldn't hold a note. But as the character, he does command a lot of presence as that role. He's the guy that he continually to try to manipulate Tommy, and I think that without Anne Margaret and Oliver Reed, I don't think there's much of a movie here. They do have to carry everybody else.
They do the heavy lifting on the acting part for sure.
So the story itself is, like, say, very simplistic. Like you said, it's an hour and 51 minutes, and Tommy's deaf, dumb, and blind. And then we get at least an hour of abuse.
Yes.
Of just flat out abuse.
Cousin abuse and weird babysitter abuse. And
so let's talk about the cousin abuse there. So he has two cousin Kenny and Uncle Ernie are two people that they have this whole sequence where their parents are like, is it okay to leave the boy with cousin Kevin? I think it's cousin Kevin.
Like, if you have to ask, you're probably already on the right track towards no.
I love this scene though for the fact that what I've got up on screen is, and Margaret knows better. You see this one scene where she's looking, but it's this point where she's trying to carry on some semblance of a life, and her son is disabled, and she's gonna go on vacation with her husband and leave him with these degenerates.
Sure.
And it's just, I mean, it's a sequence of abuse. Cousin Kevin irons him on an
irons him
board,
puts nails in his toilet,
puts him in a bathtub that looked like it was filled with urine. I'm not sure if it was. It was kind of yellowish. Maybe that was the color of the tub. I don't know.
Yep.
But nearly drowns him, ties him to a chair, and dunks him several times. Yeah, it's just flat out abuse what they do to the kid because he's disabled. And I know what they're saying is that they they try to focus on, they actually, like the scene with the preacher, they have real disabled people in that scene, real people that were blind that are coming to the preacher. And I think they're both making fun of the disabled, but also talking about how people treat the disabled. And then you have Keith Moon as Uncle Ernie. And Uncle Ernie is, you think that cousin Kevin was bad. Uncle Ernie can't wait to be alone with that boy.
Yes.
And the whole song where he's talking about, I'm going to fiddle about. So, I got to point out that I'm watching this. I know what's coming. And as soon as they introduce cousin Kevin and Uncle Ernie, I'm looking over at my wife. I'm like, this is really, really bad. You're not going to like this. And I watched her from the couch. And I looked over and she was going, oh. And all I could think of was the other movie. And the character
Beef.
That's what she looked like. This is still from Phantom of the Paradise, but that's the face that she had watching the whole abuse scene, the pedophile scene, for crying out loud.
Listen, maybe we're all supposed to forget that this ever happened, but like, didn't Pete Townsend run into a little problem with looking up some child sexual abuse material on the internet. He
Yeah,
claims it was for research and
right.
for a book, and that he, maybe had some personal uh experience with that. Maybe that's part of why it's written in here.
Right.
Who's to say? I know that I don't I don't think I would need to see photographs of that uh to know whether or not I had been abused or not. And so I definitely had to watch that scene with a little bit of you can't watch scenes like that and be a normal, reasonable, rational person with a heart without it feeling very gross to you just even
Yes.
watching it. But I think there was this added layer of like, I'm not real sure where we're at with Pete Townsend. I don't know if we all just said, "Oh, okay, he was researching his book," or if we know he's a sex pest or what. I don't know, but I know that that happened. I
Yeah.
don't recall where we landed on it, but it added this other element of, yeah, I really don't like
And
watching this, knowing the totality of everything that happened.
I think if that came out today, it would be he would be blown wide open, and then we wouldn't see the Who anymore. When it happened, I remember when it happened and it came out, there was like a moment of kind of anger and disgust, and then it was just, oh, it's over. You're right. It just kind of what happened with that. We overlooked the fact because his genius at guitar and songwriting that he might, and he said, "Do you have to take him at his word or not?" They didn't press charges. They didn't go to trial. But then you see this scene with Uncle Ernie, and you know that Townsend wrote it, and it's just very like, wow. And in the context of the time, you might giggle at it at just a Keith Moon's performance, being that, but then overwhelmingly, it's just got to be. The more I see it, the less that I can tolerate or watch it.
Well, and we're also talking about a period in time where rock stars were pretty out of control with underage girls, groupies, and one of them, who was it? Was it the Aerosmith guy who adopted or got parental rights for a 13-year-old girl so that she could travel with him, but it was not a parental thing, it-
Yeah.
so when you watch it in that
Exactly.
context, knowing that honestly back then it wasn't near as weird as we find it now. I mean, as shocking and as horrible, I mean, it was a pretty open secret that this stuff was happening, and nobody seemed real concerned about it.
No. And we did Almost Famous on this show, and in that film they have Kate Hudson and the Band-Aids that were traveling with these artists in the 70s. But if you really look at that history, David Bowie, Led Zeppelin, you name the act, you can
Yeah.
find photographs of the girls that were the real Band-Aids, and these girls were 13, 14, 15 years old. And people will say, well, it was a different time. And it was. We were coming out of the 60s where people, as soon as they were into puberty, were running away and going to communes. And you had so many underage people, look at the Manson family and all that, that they were doing this. It doesn't excuse it. And I think we've grown out of that. But it was a time when that was going on. It doesn't make them any less culpable of what they were doing. And you can't tell me that in the 70s they didn't know or didn't think about the ages of the girls that they were betting, but it is just a known fact. And it's interesting because later on in the movie, there's a whole nother subplot with Sally Simpson
Mhm.
which is the young girl. And interestingly enough, in the film, it's like one of those music videos we talked about. In fact, I'll bring the images up. But it's Sally Simpson is all of a sudden when so Tommy, for those who haven't seen the movie, Tommy eventually comes out of his catatonic state when his mother breaks his mirror, which is another symbolism thing where he stares in the mirror to make himself feel better. His mother breaks him through, and it creates this cathartic event where he breaks free and sings the song "I'm Free." And then from then on, he
Is a religious nut job.
well, he becomes a religious nut job because I truly believe that the character, like in the rock opera, he wants to help others. Now, his stepfather wants to profit off of it, like a televangelist would, but he really tries to help people, and the way he does it is by masking their senses and making them play pinball while they're deaf, dumb, and blind, and because that's how he got famous. But then there's this subplot where he becomes this celebrity, and he's a celebrity rock star, a celebrity cult leader, if you will. And there's young Sally Simpson. They have this whole montage in this video about her. Her father's a priest, and she throws away her father's sermon book because now she is going to worship the Church of Tommy. So they have the poster there you see on the image where she's got it, and it's very Jesus like. She has the photos of Tommy all up over her wall. But what I want to point out is this: when we first see Sally, look at this photo here, and if you're not on the live stream, you're not going to see the photo. If you look at the photo here, she's very much looks like, say, a 12-year-old girl. But over the course of the prolonged storytelling, she starts to put on makeup. She starts doing more adult things. She ends up getting married as a child bride to this other kid. She ends up rushing the stage on this image here where she's got the big scar. She rushes the stage and gets trampled and gets this massive scar because she's obsessed with Tommy and is trying to get near him, and it gets her injured. But she grows up in the story way, way, way too young. Now, this is a subplot in the film. There's
Yeah.
nothing. It's just all done in the realm of one music video. But what they're trying to say is very clear here with the imagery. I mean, she goes from child to adult woman in a matter of minutes, all because of her attraction to a rock star.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's listen,
Yeah, exactly.
I, it, like we watched Gone with the Wind,
Yes.
right? And we talked about how it's okay to look back and go, that was fucked up. We shouldn't have been doing that. Whether it's
Right.
race related, the way we treated homosexuals, kids stuff, whatever. Like, it's okay to look back and go, we had it all wrong. But at the same time, judging historical pieces of film and art by today's standards and not the ones that existed when they were released, art is a snapshot of its time. All of it. Cave paintings are a snapshot of that time where hunting buffalo and living in fucking wigwams or whatever it is. I don't know. What, wigwams makes you laugh? Wigwams?
No, it's the fact that you're talking about racism and then you start slamming Native Americans, whatever the fuck they live in. Those
teepees?
Yeah, that's fine too.
Cliff homes or whatever, the ones where.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, I get you.
So then it becomes then you've got to tread really carefully between saying things about the art so that you don't sound like you're supporting what the art was saying at the time, right? And I think you've got to be really diligent when you do that. Now, some people like me kind of don't give a shit because I know what I mean. I know where my heart's at. So if someone misinterprets that in some weird way, like your fucking problem, um, or email us at boxofficebattles at gmail.org or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, but it's tough. It's tough when, but there's another layer to this because Gone with the Wind, it was just like, yeah, slavery existed during the Civil War. Yeah, we called people the N-word. Like that shit happened. And so when it's like a historical snapshot, it's like, okay, well, I know those things happen. Then you get into this, and so the film is 1975, but so yes, a lot of things are different compared to 2026 and how far we've come. But then there's another layer where it's this fantasy sequence, and it's kind of like how much of this are we what are they really getting at here, and how are we to piece it all together? So I think it becomes confusing. Maybe if you watched this in 1975 and you kind of immediately grasped what was going on, maybe that's an entirely different feeling and an entirely different experience than it is now. Either because you, Greg, are watching it in 2026 but have watched it numerous times, or I'm watching it in 2026 and I'm watching it for the first time. Regardless of what your kind of the way that you get into this, I just think it can be a little tough. It can be a little peculiar to rationalize through some of that stuff.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But
it is one of those things. Like, the subject matter. Like I say, I grew up in the 70s, I was a child in the 70s, and I had older brothers, and they owned our basement, and a lot of times they burned incense a lot, if you know what I mean. And so they were down there with their friends, and playing music, and there was a lot of craziness going on, and I was just a little kid wandering through it, and I can remember those images. Now, there was nothing like debauchery or anything like that, but these were just teenagers. This was like that 70s show, but for real. I mean, they were hanging out in the basement, but the lights were all dim. There was a lot of stuff going on. And here I am wandering around as a, 9-year-old kid, but you don't think anything of it because they're just your siblings. And it was a different time. So, but you still know that time has passed. So when you watch it now, it's a little jarring. And this film is definitely jarring for a lot of reasons. Let's talk about one good sequence, though, that I think is a lot of fun to watch. I mentioned before that Tommy is deaf, dumb, and blind. He finds one thing he can do well, and that is sure plays a mean pinball. And that's where the song Pinball Wizard comes from. And you get this cameo by Elton John as the champ of the pinball that goes up against Tommy. To me, it's my favorite scene of the entire film. It's very surreal, with him in these giant Doc Marten boots, playing a piano, but using a keyboard to play pinball with it. And it's a lot of fun sequence. You have the Who in here playing as the house band, and they destroyed their instruments. It's probably one of those things that you could clip out of the film and just enjoy. And I think Elton John makes it enjoyable. He has a lot of fun with it. I mean, you can see in the images here. In fact, he didn't even really want to do the film. He was busy with a lot of other obligations, and they were trying to get him to play the Pinball Wizard and the Pinball Champ. And he saw the set, and they showed him everything that was going to be there, and he said, "I'll do it if I get to keep the boots." And he does.
Oh, did he?
He still has the boots. He wanted those giant boots. He has them in his mansion in the UK. Still has the boots. Probably one of the best scenes ever.
That's on brand.
Yeah.
I think going into it, because that song is, I mean, I would imagine it's the most recognizable song from that album.
Yeah.
For me, it is. And so obviously when I got to that part, I also found it really fun. It was a song I recognized. It didn't have all of this other either really heavy or heady stuff going on. That was just a really, like you said, fun scene. I think maybe I thought the whole movie was going to be more fun because when I hear the song Pinball Wizard and you hear it in a vacuum on classic rock radio, which also the other day was playing fucking Smashing Pumpkins, and I'm going, what?
Yeah.
Like that album came out when I was in high school. So, but when I hear that song, I think I get a really different idea of what the totality of the musical's going to be about. Because deaf, dumb, and blind kid that can sure play a mean pinball sounds pretty rad. That scene was pretty rad. Like they found something that this kid could do instead of sitting around, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, obviously it's not their responsibility to craft a movie in 1975 based on what I thought the movie was going to be like in 2026 when I watched it for the first time.
You wanted the Who's version of Disney.
Yeah, like they don't have to do that.
You wanted Tommy singing "Let It Go."
Yeah, there's no way for them to without a time machine. But
I get it. I get what you're saying.
But I think I thought that it was going to be this upbeat, fun, zany. I thought it was going to be more about pinball. Pinball was only in it about 15 minutes or so.
There's pinballs everywhere in the film.
Yes,
if you notice, like in the
she's
opening,
packing the bombs,
with ball bearings, the giant buoys.
Everything's ball bearings these days, Greg.
Everything's ball bearings these days. Everything's ball bearing, guys. But anyway, there's the ending scene where they actually they were at a naval shipyard and they took Navy buoys and then just painted them all that really shiny silver. So there's this reflection, and it's all that symbolism of the circle, the perfect circle, the shining. You see it the same thing with the mirror. It's what it just enraptures Tommy, and we figure that out by making the connection from the beginning of the film where Tommy's father is standing on the mountain as the sun rises, and you get that perfect shiny spherical shape, and then it comes full circle after Tommy. One of the things that the movie does well is that he becomes a cult leader and everything is great, and the cult will love you until they don't love you, until they decide that we loved our heroes when we build them up, but we love tearing them down just as much. And that's what ends up happening to Tommy. People just end up all of a sudden turning on him and
they
saying
killed his mom
and his stepdad, which probably deserved it. But anyway, he ends up having this just crisis of faith after all it was over. And then what he ends up doing, going back to the place where he was conceived, and he
rises like a phoenix,
and he stands where his father stood, and they recap that. So you get that perfect ball, the shiny ball, and that's the thing. The truth is, Pete Townsend said the reason he did pinballs, a pinball champ, a pinball wizard, was he was like, what's the stupidest thing that somebody could be good at and become famous? Okay, and he made it pinballs, and then built the whole song and the story around that.
Little did he know that you could just fuck Ray J on camera and become even more famous than that. And then your whole family can become famous. Yeah. All because you fucked Brandy's like C-list rapper brother.
Hey, if I'd have known, if only I'd have known.
I know. I mean, I've never seen it. I'm assuming the guy's well endowed, and don't ask me why I'm assuming that. Just allow me to say,
I'll take your word for it.
Just allow me to say that I assume.
Yes.
But like one time, one video. Now the problem is everybody gets to know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you rather have sex? Okay, this is a question for you, Greg. Would you rather have sex with Ray J?
Okay.
But no one ever finds out about it? Yeah. Or not have sex with Ray J, but everyone that you know and will ever meet and has ever met you sincerely believes that you did have sex with Ray J.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with not. I'd rather have people think that than actually have done it because I'll know, and I just wouldn't. I don't think that's something I would enjoy. You know, it
No one's
depends.
asking. No one's asking you to enjoy it. Are you going to enjoy everybody thinking?
No, I'm not going to enjoy that either, but I can live with that. I can
Okay.
go I can go live in a mountain somewhere like Tommy and just live in a cabin for the rest of my life.
Oh
But
man, I
that's
really thought like that unlocked something in the chat, but really it's just someone who wants to sell us
oh, nice.
AI
Hey,
viewers
viewers. Hey, I could use some AI viewers. Let's
on
get them.
Streamboo,
Yeah, Stream Boo.
streamboo.com. Oh well,
Stream Boo. We're not even
fuck
gonna
you,
put that on
Streamboo.
screen. But so let's wrap up Tommy real quick. We'll go into the second film, but I did want to finish with one thing. We didn't even talk about the beans, but I don't like beans. I don't like baked beans. I love our UK viewers. I love the UK fans. I'm not a fan of I lived there. I don't get the obsession with the baked beans that it is. They love Heinz baked beans. And the fact that they put Anne Margaret in a ton of beans in one of the scenes, it is very disgusting. I did not enjoy it, but it is what it is. They did it. I like the Who quite a bit. I own several of their albums, and one of my albums I really do like is an album called The Who Sell Out. But I won't buy it because on the cover, Pete Townsend is in a bathtub full of baked beans, and it grosses me out. I won't have it in my house, so I'll play it on streaming, but I won't buy that on vinyl because I can't do it.
You
Anyway,
can't like you can't get Christina to buy it and then just like
I just
put
oh
paper
no,
over it or something and then
no,
hand it to you and like you
no, I'll
turn
know.
your head with your eyes closed and feel around on your hi-fi and try to
No,
put it.
no,
No, okay,
the
well,
baked beans
it
suit is
was
horrible.
disgusting, but it was beans and then it was chocolate and then it was
And
weird
champagne
and it
suds.
didn't make any sense and I
It's because
didn't like it.
she was watching TV, and those commercials were on, and then she's trying to zone out what was going on with her son, and whatever.
No, I saw
So
it happen. I just don't understand why it happened.
exactly. So let's finish out with this image here real quick. I wanted to share this. Oliver Reed is a known alcoholic. I mean, he has. If you Google some of the things there was one like live interview he did on a UK television station that is completely like viral in its day, where he was just completely hammered. He had a problem, but he was a functioning alcoholic where he could act and do his thing.
Well, he and Keith
And
Moon must have got along.
oh, it's funny you say so, because there we have.
Oh, yeah.
They met Keith Moon, another known alcoholic, the drummer for
Like,
the Who,
hell yeah.
raging drug and alcohol. I mean, it's and what ended up killing him. And I saw these images today, and I just went, "Oh my God!" You could just see the bond over booze that these two guys had, and yeah, they became friends after this film, and yeah, buddies for life.
Yeah, I bet they did, bonding over
raging alcohol.
functional alcoholism.
It's crazy. All right, let's get into the other movie that Tommy is going up into. This is not as well known as Tommy is.
It's not. I never heard of it.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't. It came on my radar about maybe 10 years ago because I like I said, I grew up in the 70s, but I have not seen everything that came out during the 70s. But someone said, "Hey, if you like," because I think I mentioned Paul Williams. I always like Paul Williams. He wrote The Rainbow Connection and so many other like songs that we don't realize that Paul Williams wrote.
Dude, the
and
list is crazy.
it is. He's a musical genius, and they're like, if you like Paul Williams, you should check out Phantom of the Paradise. I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, it's Paul Williams' take on Phantom of the Opera, but set in the 70s. I went, are you kidding me? And I've never heard of this film. So I immediately, downloaded it, found it, and it's quite the experience. It really is. But if you love Paul Williams, it's something to behold as far as a moviegoer. There are people, again, just like with Tommy, that adore this film. That
Well,
this is like
I can
pinnacle.
tell you someone who adores this film.
Really?
It's me.
Oh, nice.
Dude, this was so I like I had a hard time like taking it all in the best way.
Yeah.
Immediately hooked. Where the story for Tommy kind of was meandering and whatever. Dude, this thing is locked in and it's weird. There's not a single time, though, that you're not acutely aware of what's going on. Every scene feels like it builds upon the last and builds towards the climax of the film. Not my own personal climax, because I climaxed about halfway through the film. I always do that. It was visually interesting. I don't know any of the music to Phantom of the Paradise, but I found myself really enjoying it and would go back and listen to an album of the music. Like I said, Paul Williams. Well, first, the pedigree of this thing, Brian De Palma is the director, Scarface, Carlito's Way,
The Untouchables.
The Untouchables. So
amazingly directed. Body Double.
So he's got the bona fides.
Oh, for sure.
And as does Paul Williams.
Yes.
Although when you told me about this, I think I was thinking, who's the Star Wars music composer? John Williams?
John Williams, yeah.
So I'm going like, where's the big like orchestral like
No.
I don't know. It wasn't that. It was Paul
little
Williams.
dude, man. This little dude.
Little guy, Swan.
Oh God, Swan is he runs the record label. One of the things that it just sets the tone for the film that I think it's so interesting is you get this kind of shitty doo-wop group doing this musical number, hamming it up, and you're like, is it supposed to be bad? Is it supposed to be
yeah?
cheesy? I mean, it's just kind of weird.
Couldn't take my eyes off of it though.
It's not horrible. And then like the one guy assaults a female during the song.
Yeah.
And then after they're done, everybody turns and looks at Swan, the record producer. And when he claps, then everybody can cheer. And then you get, okay, they've already set the tone that this guy runs shit. This is the guy that makes or breaks people's careers.
Yeah. Well, he's unscrupulous, as these people often are, Greg, because then he hears what's
Winslow.
Winslow's
Leach
piano. He decides that this nerdy dweeb playing the piano is exactly what he needs to open his club, his rock and roll club.
Yep. I think that the scene again, Winslow Leach plays piano very well. He doesn't sing the best. And the fact that and they're doing it on purpose. In fact, my wife, we talked about it afterward. She goes, "Was it really meant for him not to?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was the thing, was that he's a good songwriter, but it shows you that they don't want his singing ability. All Swan wants is his songs." And so he basically hires his henchman, who is, I think, just lovingly played for by this guy named George Mamoli. He plays Philbin. This guy, he is hilarious. He's like the stereotypical douchebag henchman. And there's the scene here where he's like, "You want that guy?"
Man, it's crazy when you, because I saw something one time. I think they were talking about, like, is it Jeffrey from Game of Thrones?
Yes, yeah.
They were talking about him specifically, but then like every like mean, like overly aggressive, muscular bully that was ever in any movie, and they're like, that kid's like a fucking theater dweeb, right? Like every one of them. And so you look up, I was looking up the actors from this, because most of them, I mean, I don't know any of these people, but it's like, went to Juilliard, graduated from Columbia, founded the comedy troupe, whatever, in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me that the sleazy, henchman guys, 4 years before this was doing Shakespeare in the Park in London. It's honestly really neat when I read that stuff.
And the thing is, this guy is a total douchebag, henchman, piece of trash. But he's probably the nicest guy. Was the nicest guy in the world. I don't know if he's still alive or dead.
Oh no.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't declare. I didn't look and see if George Mamoli was still alive.
He's been dead for 40 years.
Oh, see, is he? No way.
Yeah, he died in 85.
1985. Wow.
19.
1985.
He died in 85.
Yep. But
so
he was good in this.
He was good in this.
He's good in this. And he tries to get Winslow's songs to give to the Juicy Fruits, who we see in the opening act, and Winslow doesn't really like that idea. So then they back off and say they're just gonna, he's just gonna look them over. And what they do, like, what big music industry does, they steal his music, and then he ends up, having to try to arrange meetings, and he keeps getting turned away. Which I thought the sequence where he shows up at the record label and he tries to and it's very funny because he just keeps getting thrown out, like physically thrown out of the building. It is and this guy who they got to play him, William Finley, I again hadn't seen him in anything. He's like the perfect guy to play Winslow. He's this nerdy dweeb who writes good music but can't get his songs published because he doesn't sing well, and he gets totally taken advantage of. And it makes it even more effective when he meets Phoenix, the girl at the audition that wants to sing his music, and there's an instant connection between the two of them. And when all of that is taken away, when he is framed for drug use, beaten up by the henchmen, arrested by the cops, he ends up going to prison, get his teeth pulled out, for crying out loud, replaced with silver teeth.
Yeah.
That he finally,
a lot happened to this guy.
All of that, he finally snaps and becomes the Phantom of the new Club, the Paradise. And
I thought that this was
Yeah.
very forward thinking for its time to have two black cops plant drugs on a glasses wearing white man.
I noticed that as well. I'm like, was that intentional? Because
I don't know.
It was very interesting that instead it was the reverse of what we see in regular society of a black man having drugs. But yeah, they plant drugs on him. They take it out and put it in his bag.
Now, Winslow doesn't do himself any favors by getting out of Sing Sing with his silver teeth and then going to the record label and getting his head pressed in a record machine.
Yes.
Now, that could have been avoided had we just maybe thought of a plan, thought through what we were going to do before we did it. But it does serve the purpose of disfiguring him to where we need a mask. Look, I don't know I do know about Faustian legend, and this is based on that. The meeting at the crossroads. This is a legend. I mean, it already exists in music with Robert Johnson, the blues player. So that's already well established. And there is a Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, that this is also, and I am familiar with that work as well prior to this.
Yes.
The only one I'm not familiar with is Phantom of the Opera. I know literally nothing about it.
Okay.
At all. So what can you give me some? Is there some reason the Phantom has to wear the mask in the original thing? Is there where are the parallels in this thing?
Well, he was again, they combined the three, which is to me both ambitious, insane, but somehow they're able to pull all three off. So they combined Faust in the deal with the devil and selling your soul. Then they combined the Picture of Dorian Gray, which for those who don't know is about a man who was promised he would never age, but he had to keep this painting that aged instead of him. If anything happened to the painting, then he would age and die. And this film. It's a video, which is interesting. It's like a videotape that they have of Paul Williams when he's young and makes this deal with the devil. But the Phantom of the Opera part is again same thing. It was in the if you've ever seen, there's the stage musical. There's different movie adaptations, but there's a young protege singer, in this case Phoenix, who sings beautifully, but she's overshadowed by the more dominant soprano in the opera. But the Phantom, who has been rumored to, he hides in the opera house and he watches everything. He sees the young girl and he starts giving her, or he starts feeding her without her knowing, a music to sing, and it's the stuff that he's written, which is very beautiful. And he won't let anybody else sing it but her. And if they do, tragedy will strike. He'll, he brings a chandelier down and tries to crush one of the other singers and that sort of thing. And eventually,
okay, like I get caring about your work and taking pride in it.
But he only wants the girl to sing.
Okay, yeah, and I only want my kids to listen to me all the time, but we don't always get that.
But they do the same thing in here where, Winslow creates, aka the Phantom, creates this music, and they're trying to give it to other singers, and he's adamant that only Phoenix will sing his music. So they do incorporate so many great stuff from Phantom of the Opera as well as Faust and Dorian Gray. It's again, you're taking these classics and you're taking this 70s glam rock spin on them, and the music itself is just like you said, it's enjoyable. One of my favorite scenes, and it's one of these things that's mesmerizing. I think Brian De Palma does an amazing job. It's when Phoenix comes out to be able to audition after she's nearly raped at her first audition.
Yes.
And she comes back and she's like, I came to sing this time. She didn't let it deter herself. She gets the mic. And what I love about this scene, first of all, she does this little thing with her shoulders as she's like this trucking thing, very mesmerizing dancing. She sings beautifully, but Brian De Palma has her sing directly into the camera, and I've got the image up here. She literally sings to the audience, and you just don't see that very often unless it's an intentional fourth wall break that's supposed to be humorous. In this case, it's done for like emotional effect to have her
style
connect.
Choice.
Yeah, it's not, and as you connect with her, I thought that was brilliant. And so they set the tone where she's, she becomes to Winslow. He has to be the one to usher her into stardom.
I can already, for people listening or watching, well, only one person's watching. People listening, it can sound admittedly like hokey, and it's not to take away from the weirdness, because there is weirdness.
Oh, for sure.
But the weirdness, like, it literally goes hand in hand with exactly what you're seeing as far as the story is concerned. It never felt out of place to me. His costume, it's kind of funny looking and weird. But then the silver teeth and he also loses his voice in that same accident. So Swan is so kind as to hook him up with a voice box, but like can only be used in the studio. There's this crazy, like, abusive relationship. Swan is constantly taking advantage of him, promising him things that he has no intention of following through on. I saw that you had pulled up there the makes him sign a contract, so he says, okay, well, fine, you're obviously very persistent. Here you are. Let's have you rewrite it. We'll have you rewrite it for Phoenix, and, we'll work together from there. And so this is like that. Yeah, has to sign it in blood. So this goes along, back with the themes we talked about. Unknown music to me, unknown actors to me. Like, this picture you're showing here is badass. It's him in his full getup in a studio with like 70s-ish, like MIDI Moog synthesizer. There's something about the cables, all disheveled and running from this to that give it this like apocalyptic, weird, like Terminator style. I don't know, man. I was blown away by that. I'm still not sure exactly what to think about all of it.
So one of the cool things I pointed out to my wife is in that scene, there's a joke where Paul Williams is working on a synthesizer box and he's telling him to sing. And my first thing, I turn to my wife, I go, "Hey, this is the birth of auto-tune," which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Because he's playing the piano or the organ and he's adjusting the vocals until finally he gets the right vocal pitch and he's singing the song. And now Winslow can actually sing. Like at the beginning, he was off key. Now he sounds beautiful. And Paul Williams goes, "Perfect." It was Paul Williams' voice that they were using as the singer. And it's funny how when all of a sudden he starts singing and his voice is Paul Williams, and Paul Williams goes, "Perfect." And I'm like, that was just brilliant. There's another thing that I like, and I want to ask you a question about. So there's a band, the Juicy Fruits, in the film that they have several incarnations. And my wife and I couldn't agree on the who they were. So the first time you see them, they're the Juicy Fruits. And then the second time you see them, it's in the split screen scene where Winslow has planted a dynamite into the trunk of this prop car and he wants to kill them and blow them up. And now they're called the Beach Bums.
Yeah.
They're not called the Juicy Fruits. And then they show up later as glam rockers, and I forget their names. I'll look it up in a minute. But so the Beach Bums, which kind of funny, it reminds me of the Blink 182 video where the first date, I think is what it was, when they're at the swimming park and they're all dressed in beach clothes and with the blonde hair. That's what they look like to me.
Yeah.
But they're making fun of the Beach Boys. And what I told the wife, I said, well, definitely what they're doing is they're showing the different incarnations of rock and how rock is manipulated through the 50s, through the 60s and the beach, and then with the glam rock era. And these guys aren't good, but yet they're constantly pushed forward by the industry. And my wife said, I think they were all the same band. They just kept repackaging them.
Well, that's what I assumed.
I thought they were three different. I thought it was the same actors, but I thought they were playing three different bands.
Greg,
I thought they were.
It's like
because they get blown up. And my wife was like, "No, they get out off the car." I'm like, "They get blown up on the stage. So how did the Juicy Fruits, aka Beach Bums, all of a sudden show up in the third act?"
Well, maybe the third act is it, but I know the first two are the same guy. I mean, even the plot run through here says that they've rebranded themselves.
Yeah, they're the undeads in the final scene.
Oh, well, maybe that's like maybe that's a thing.
Maybe they're dead.
Them going from the Juicy Fruits to the Beach Bums reminded me of the Wonders becoming Captain Gooch and the Shrimp Shack Shooters or whatever it was. In That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
Because you're just a commodity. And especially back then, the way that the studios worked and the way that these music movies worked with the Elvis and that kind of stuff. It was, you're just a commodity and we just need you to be this for this movie, for these people, for this certain amount of time. So yeah, your wife is right. You were wrong.
Well, the thing is that the scene where the car blows up, I had to rewatch today because she was like, "No, they all got off the car," and I'm like, "No, I think the girls got off the car." And so I rewatched it, and you see everybody get off the car, but then as soon as they get off the car, it explodes. But they don't want to show a lot of body parts and everything like that, so they just show the explosion. So I do believe that the Beach Bums died in that scene. But now you make an interesting observation. You're giving me something to think about because with Paul Williams, if like I said, spoiler alert, this movie was made in 1974. So if you haven't seen it, I'm about to reveal something. He has basically made a deal with the devil where he is the devil incarnate. He is working for Satan. And so he's living an abnormally long life like Dorian Gray, and maybe has the power to bring these guys back from the dead and repackage them as the undeads who they end up.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of makes sense to me, because then he pivots, and what I think is fascinating is that he hears Phoenix's voice, and Phoenix is beautiful. She's the perfect one to sing the songs, but Swan doesn't want her to sing the songs because she's too perfect.
The
And he
Swan
doesn't
Song.
want Swan Song, exactly, the label that Led Zeppelin was on. But it's the fact that he doesn't want Phoenix to sing because she's too perfect. And that's the thing. He can't deal with an artist that is good. It's got to be somebody that he puts forward that he knows is trash, that he can force into singing these songs. So he instead gives the songs to my favorite character in cinema in years. I could just watch his scenes over and over again, and that is
Beef.
Beef.
He's
And
perfectly named.
it's the best. I mean, Garrett Graham plays Beef, and I've seen him in other little things. This is like the first thing where I've seen him. I just remembered the face. He's as a face I've seen before. And he's like this amalgam of Alice Cooper and just Kiss or whatever. He's got this package. And the Undeads are his band, and he's in a coffin when they open him up, and then the faces he makes. But I remember I said the first time I watched this, I'll never forget watching the scene where he's auditioning for the first time, and he's screaming into the microphone, and he's all super tough and macho.
Yeah.
He's
just flamboyant.
he's like, guys, this is so horrible. I don't know what's wrong. And I'm like, oh my God. Because you don't see it coming.
No.
And then he is a total doofus.
It's so good.
He is so funny. And the scene I've got up here is when he's wearing those wooden shoes and he walks out into the middle of the stage and he slips onto his ass and he's trying to get up and he's bridging. I couldn't stop laughing. I think it's one of the funniest things, and he sells it so well. The movie is good, in my opinion, up until that point, and then he just takes it to another level, adds such humor that you get engaged all over again. You just want to see what is going to happen with this guy.
It is
great.
so zany when he shows up.
Oh,
I mean, there are parts of the so this thing is like low key undercover when it wants to be funny, with a big, mostly dark, mostly serious, mostly exploitative, mostly really dark, with some humor built in. And then this just ramps up this zaniness thing out of nowhere. It's Shakespearean comic relief, like that you had to have. Audience needed it in order to like settle down. Like I need a rest from this.
exactly.
It's like when
so
the clown shows up in Schindler's List,
oh my God.
tells a couple jokes. Hey, I just flew in from Auschwitz. Boy, are my arms tired.
Oy vey.
You know why Germans are not good at joking? Timing. And then he runs, and then we're back to Schindler and his. He's got the.
No, you're right, because he comes in just after the juicy fruits or the beach bums get blown up, and Winslow signs the deal with the devil with Swan to be able to give his songs over, and he comes in after all that darkness, and it's just, even though he's not a bad guy, he's just another artist that's trying to get ahead. but he comes off as is this kind of a weirdo douche that is just hilarious. But then the scene where he's going to be singing Winslow's cantata, and Winslow shows up, and it looks like we're going to get a repeat of Psycho. Which, by the way, the scene in the shower scene where Beef is in the shower, and Winslow accosts him.
Yeah.
You got to think this is Brian De Palma. He did a movie called Dressed to Kill that has a scene that's very inspired by Psycho with Angie Dickinson in an elevator and a straight razor, which is a classic horror film. And he does it again here, but he did it, about 10 years before he did Dressed to Kill. And it's just, instead of a butcher knife,
He's got a punch.
takes a plunger and sticks it over his face. I was like, oh, you see the knife and you think, oh my God, he's gonna gut poor Beef to death. And he just and he tells him, if you sing, if anybody but Phoenix sings the songs, you're gonna die. And
I
he
didn't
leaves him
like
alone.
that part though.
Well, that's what the Phantom does.
Well, okay, but I mean, Beef didn't do anything wrong. I mean, Beef,
He tries to leave.
he does. Yeah, I mean, like, what do you expect the guy to do? Swan will kill him, or Johnny Mamino, or whatever this guy's name is.
Philbin, yeah.
And
it's close. It's good. George Mamoli, but it's good.
whatever, Johnny Mamino. Listen, without looking and remember, like, that's as close as
That's
I
good.
could be expected
That was very close. That was very
to remembering this guy's name.
Yep.
Yeah, he tried to leave, but guess what happens, Greg?
No, we know what happens. Well, what's great is here's the picture of the undead. The scene when Beef does come out to do this performance again, it was reminiscent of like Rocky Horror.
Yes,
It had so many really cool
camp,
glam rock, these theater rock vibes with the undeads, and then they go through the audience and they chop people up, and then they use not literally, they're mannequins people, but it's the whole act, and then they put the pieces together to make Beef. These Frankenstein. And unfortunately, our hero Phantom Winslow takes a lightning bolt neon sign and drives it into Beef's back, and he gets electrocuted and dies in a very hilarious way, where the camera work where he's just vibrating. And so it's almost like, so they have this death, but they don't want to make it that heavy. They still make his death even funny. And it's sad that he's gone from the film, but it's unnecessary. I mean, we're near the end at this point anyway. So
he will live in our hearts.
He will forever. But then finally Phoenix does get to sing her song. And I found out that this where this theater, so we're watching the movie again. This is like the fourth time I've seen it. And there's a still here of Phoenix singing the cantata, and then she becomes the star that the Phantom always knew she could be, and she rises to massive amounts of fame. And I got fascinated with the theater that they kept filming these scenes in, because all the scenes are in the same theater. Yeah. It's a still working theater. You can Google it. I think it is called the Majestic in Dallas.
Dude, the Majestic Theater?
Yes, that's where they did all this.
No shit.
So, yep. And they still in operation today. So there's I was looking at one of the scenes. I looked on their line and I looked up the current photos. I'm like, gosh, it looks the same. They just painted it white.
I've been to the Majestic Theater before. I saw fucking Gavin DeGraw play at the Majestic Theater.
You've been here.
And he doesn't want to be anything other than what he was trying to be lately.
Exactly.
But
so yeah,
very
cool place.
What?
Very cool place. And that's where they filmed the music. Now it makes you like it even more because you've actually been where the Phantom played, where Phoenix played. But yeah.
Not only that, I mean, I've been downtown. I mean, it's downtown. Yeah. Like, it's not.
Next time I'm in Dallas, we're going to have to go check it out. I'm going to have to see something there. It's just so I can go because I really like this film.
Hell yeah.
Unfortunately, Phoenix decides she wants to sleep with with Swan.
Man,
because
what is this?
he's piping her with drugs. She's gotten to the top, and she's forgotten about old poor Winslow. She thinks he's dead.
She's not Phoenix from the block anymore. She
No.
forgot where she came from.
She did.
Phoenix, you bitch. Like, you remember the one who was like trying to make you famous the whole time? Who's like insisted upon, was willing to fucking kill folks so you got a chance to sing this stuff? And how do you repay him? By being a total bitch, which you should expect.
Yeah, and then it all comes to a head when we find out what she's going to marry Swan on stage at this big show.
Yeah.
And again, Swan is jealous of her success, so he wants to kill her off. And that's going to make him even bigger if she dies on stage. So he hires somebody to kill her. But then at the same time, the Phantom finds the video that shows that Swan is really hundreds of years old. That he made a deal when he was like a singer in the 40s. So he's not that old, but he made a deal that to keep him alive. And so so he's actually Dorian Gray as well. And it's fascinating because there's a scene where he ends up stabbing Winslow.
Yeah.
When he gets attacked. Well, Winslow stabs himself. Sorry. Winslow tries to kill himself to get out of the deal. To get out of the deal he signed.
He said, "You can't die."
Yeah, this contract is binding. Sounds like my job.
Yeah. We'll tell you when it's time to die.
Exactly.
Get
But he
back to
says
work.
if you hurt me, if you kill me, then your wound will open up and you will die. So that creates that problem. But yeah, the poor girl, she gets up on stage and they're going to put a bullet in her, but good old Winslow comes in to save the day. Just like the hero he is, the superhero, and he takes out he burns up everything, which is the document.
Yeah, but he rips the mask off.
Oh yeah, he's gross.
And then he's all gross because he'd already got rid of the videotape.
I loved the final scene here where he's bleeding out. Phoenix realizes that he's alive. She's traumatized, and this guy here in the scene who thinks it's all a part of the show. And he's tracking him, and he's getting his blood all over his arms, and the guy's like, "Woo!"
It's so, man, I'm telling you.
And he's like, dude, he's like, look, I'm all red, man. And then you get this, and then he dies in her arms, and you get this scene where she's in complete and total grief, and the whole crowd loves it. And it pans out as they're just celebrating, and the guy's covered in blood. He doesn't realize it's real. It's just, it is. The first time I saw it, I was mesmerized by the visuals. And every time I've watched it since, I get a little bit more out of it. And this time, like I said, I'm sitting there with my wife watching it for the first time, and I'm kind of like, I know it's strange, but stick with it. Stick with it. It's good. And yeah, she liked it as well. She thought it was just weird, but oddly
fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating, entertaining. It's great.
Man, that's exactly how I felt about it. I expected just going into it to like Tommy more because I'm familiar with The Who. I'm familiar with Tommy as a, that it exists as a album and as a movie. But what Phantom of the Paradise did, being so, I'm telling you, like, to me, it felt so tightly packaged, but in a good way. Not that it was so rigid that it was safe to stay really close to the plot or close to the theme, because I don't think it played it safe. It just did everything. It was executed so well that, well, like I said, you can meander away from that as long as you're pulled back in consistently and correctly. I just feel like it did that. Like that was a real joy to watch. That's one of the, maybe besides Singing in the Rain, which I remember really being surprised at how much I liked that movie.
Yeah.
This is right up there with just kind of a way out of nowhere. where I could talk to my dad tomorrow and go, man, I got to tell you, I watched this movie. I can't guarantee you're going to like it, but I found it really impressive and you ought to give it a shot. If you hate it, turn it off. But I think you might enjoy it. I would for sure do that. I don't know if you would like it or not, but I
and again,
really liked it.
I think both of these movies aren't for everybody. I enjoy both of them for different reasons, and I actually enjoyed watching them both over this weekend again for the first time. I watched Phantom of the Paradise first, and I still love it as much as I did. It is a very underrated gem, that very little known gem that I'm like a Mormon. I try to tell people, have you talked about Phantom of the Paradise today? Do you mind if I share this movie? And I'm glad we got to cover it because it is a great weird musical, and one of the better ones ever made. My wife liked them both, and after Tommy was over, she was talking about Tommy, saying, I liked this and I like that. I said, so since I didn't do a pre-vote and Eric and I might have a different opinion on this, what would you vote for if you want? And she said, Tommy. And I was like, why? She said, I really liked Anne Margaret. And I enjoyed there. She goes, there was a scene and I didn't pick up on it. The things that women see different from men. She goes, there's a scene when they're getting ready to go out and they're going to leave him with the cousins, and she's putting eyeliner on, and Oliver Reed bumps into her and she doesn't miss a beat. She doesn't smear. She puts it on perfectly. And Christina said that was like, oh, I love that. That's one of the best things I've ever seen. But the thing is that if you want to give somebody the MVP for Tommy, the music is great, but again, the Who don't sing a lot of it. Anne Margaret was, to me, that was probably one of her pinnacle roles. She won the Golden Globe for Best Actress. I looked it up.
Yep.
And she was nominated for an Oscar, and it is the only time in Oscar history that an Oscar nominee was nominated and they never spoke a word of dialogue except for one line. She sang all of her dialogue, and she got nominated. She didn't win. She won the Golden Globe. But I don't know who won that year in '74 because that's a little bit out there. But yeah, so she liked Tommy better, but it was very close. So I said, well, if I told her, I said I would vote Phantom of the Paradise, but if Eric prefers Tommy, then I will let Tommy go, and I won't have a problem with it. But if Eric votes for Phantom of the Paradise, I'm sticking with Phantom of the Paradise.
Well,
So
my vote
yes.
is for Tommy.
Oh, okay.
No, it's for Phantom of the Paradise for all of the reasons that we talked about. However,
Yeah.
I would just like to point out that Phantom of the Paradise also was nominated for Golden Globes and Academy Awards. I don't know what for.
Yeah. We'd have to look it up.
I would have had to look it. I would have had to.
I didn't look at the awards for it.
Put effort.
I assumed, because I'd not, and I should have looked up, I assumed because it's so under the radar that I didn't think that it was ever nominated. I thought it was one of those movies that they just did and it came out and it went its way. So we'll have to look it up.
Best Original Score nomination and Best Original Screenplay from the Writers Guild.
And Brian De Palma wrote it. Yeah,
that's right.
Amazing. And he was very young at this. He was just really. I looked at his biography, and this was before Carrie, before anything he did that took him off. So you could see that the genius was here. So if you love Brian De Palma, and you didn't listen to anything we said for the last 45 minutes and ruin the whole movie, I would say I would recommend our winner tonight, Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
Is the winner of this episode over Tommy, and I think deservedly so, and it's my opinion. If you don't agree, that's fine. Go watch the movies and make your own opinion. I'm okay with it if you don't like Phantom as much as Tommy, but I would say I disagree.
I can't Yeah, it's all subjective. I can't imagine being more entertained by Tommy than being entertained by Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
But that's also just my opinion. But that was a really fun one, man. I that's really cool.
I'm glad you like. I am glad you like it. I like when there's something that I really really like and you haven't seen yet, and I'm always like, oh,
you're like a proud papa sometimes.
It could go either way. I'm prepared for Eric to hate it, but yeah, I'm glad you really liked it because yeah, it is a gem. It is one that you just don't hear about, and then it's great that you get to experience something that you've never seen the like of before. And again, it goes back to saying, I have wanted to go to a HorrorCon or a Comic-Con to meet Paul Williams while he's still on this earth. Because, dude, the man, he's just little Enos from Smoking Man. Just that alone,
yeah,
is just huge. But he was in Planet of the Apes. Is one of the scientists. He's just the 70s was Paul Williams. He wrote a lot of songs that people don't realize. He was the melody for so many things out there. So if you don't know who Paul Williams is, check him out. He's great. Now, we've got another episode coming up in a few weeks. I have to take a little bit of time off. I'm going out of town. So it's going to be more like in about 4 weeks. We'll be back, and that will be with our next episode. And these ones are going to be interesting. I've not seen either of these.
Okay.
So these will be new for me. I'm going
now. This will be the
blind.
first time, maybe, that we're going into a episode where neither of us have seen either of the movies ever before.
I have not. So I have until September 22nd, and that's
Holy
you
shit.
as well, our audience, to watch these two. It is Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I think it's pre-South Park or just after the beginning of South Park, in Cannibal the Musical, and they're going up against from the 1950s, a Dr. Seuss adaptation. Eric loves this one, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. So that will be.
Hey, girls. Dr. T's here.
Check out my fingers.
He's got 5,000 fingers. I just assume that that's in it.
We'll do that on September 2nd. So please join us for that live stream. Again, if you like the show, we appreciate you joining us for the live stream, but you can also catch it on all your podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, any of them. Just go out there, like, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Thank you again for tuning in. You can always email us at boxofficebattles@gmail.com, and you can watch the live streams on Twitch at Box Office Battle Pod or YouTube at Box Office Battle Podcast. So we're going to step away for a few weeks. We'll be back for a third battle in the weird music category. It'll be 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T versus Cannibal the Musical. We'll be here with all that soon. And with that said, I'm turning it over to Eric for his final words of the night.
We appreciate you, as always, tuning in, listening in. Until we see you again in a month, y'all be excellent to each other. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you soon.
I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm a nerd.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
I have never seen anything like this.
The worst part has been watching the actual watching of the movie.
Some of these were pretty terrible.